Hello, my name's Lisa. Let's give it just a minute for people to come on in. Thank you so much for joining us today. So welcome. My name is Lisa, and we are here from the University of Pennsylvania English Language Programs today. And we are the Unicon team. We're here today to give you some information about applying to universities in the United States. That's what we do in the University Connection program and at the Penn ELP, the University of Pennsylvania English Language Programs. So myself and my colleagues, Eric, Leah, and Jessica will be talking to you today. And we will be talking about lots of information that has to do with applying to degree programs, either undergraduate programs or graduate programs in the United States. So in our program, we help you successfully apply to and gain admission to schools in the United States that are a good fit for you. So go ahead, Eric, you can go back to the slide with our pictures. So this is who we are. We call ourselves the Unicon team. So Unicon is short for University Connection, and the team consists of myself, I manage the program, and my colleague Leah Greenspoon, who is our academic advising specialist. Give us a wave, Leah. I don't know if everyone can see all of us.
Hi, everyone.
And Eric Hyde, our University Connection Counseling Specialist.
Hello.
And we're all going to be talking to you today. Eric, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So before we get started today, just a couple of housekeeping things. The first thing I'm going to do is post a little poll. We'd love to know a bit more about you. So I'm launching the poll right now. So go ahead and fill it in. There's only a couple of questions there. We want to know if you're applying to undergraduate programs or graduate programs, if you're a high school student, if you're a student advisor. This information will help us to know what kinds of information to give you today and what kinds of information maybe to reach out to you with later on. All right, I see those numbers ticking up. Give it another couple of seconds. If you don't see your major or your field of study on there, you can click Other. There is an Other. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, it looks like most of our participants here today are university students who are applying to graduate programs in the United States. And some of our majors are STEM, business, and arts, literature, and humanities. So thank you for that. And one question that we meant to put on the poll, but that didn't end up on there is, what country are you from? So if anybody wants to share in the chat what country you're from, we'd love to know. So go ahead and just type that in the chat for us. And if anybody has questions while we're going along, please feel free to use the Q&A. You can post your questions in there. If you post a question in the Q&A, only the panelists will be able to see the question, and we will monitor it and we will make sure to answer them. We also have the chat where I see some of you have already put your countries in. Thank you so much for doing that. So we can use the chat for anything you want to type in that everybody here will be able to see. We are supposed to be streaming live on Facebook. I'm not sure if it's working right now. Once I turn this over to Eric, I'll go back in and make sure that we are streaming. So if we are streaming and anybody is watching us on Facebook, shout out to our Facebook viewers. And just so that everybody knows, we are recording this session. So hopefully everybody is comfortable with that. And we will be posting the recording on our website and on Facebook after we're finished. All right, let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about who we are. So we are from the University of Pennsylvania, a program called the English Language Programs, or the ELP. And within the ELP, we have several programs. We have a program called the Intensive Program. We call it the IP. The Intensive Program is a program that runs around year-round in the fall, in the spring, and in the summer. We have 7-week sessions, each beginning of fall, end of fall, beginning of spring, end of spring, beginning of summer, end of summer. And you can start the ELP at any time at the beginning of a 7-week session. We have another program called University Connection, which we call Unicon, which comes together with the IP and helps you to apply to US universities and to prepare to be successful in US universities. That's the program that all of us who are here today work in. We also have a program called IP plus a Penn undergraduate class, which means you take English language classes and you also take one class for credit at the University of Pennsylvania. Within the University Connection program, you can see here a program called Unicon Plus is a program where you can start preparing for standardized tests that you need to take to get admission to a US university, like for everybody who answered the poll and is applying to graduate schools, that would be, for example, the GRE or the GMAT. If you're applying to undergraduate programs, it might be the SAT or the ACT. Within Unicon, we also do one-on-one advising, we do workshops, we give you lots and lots of intense help and feedback on your application essays, on choosing what schools to apply to, and on all kinds of other things that we're going to be talking about today. So let's get started talking about how to apply to US universities. And again, this is some more information about our program. Unicon teaches you how to navigate the admissions process, research universities, identify which schools are a best fit for you, write memorable application essays, submit successful applications overall, everything that you need to do to have an excellent application to the schools in the US that you want to go to, while improving your academic English and improving your academic skills so that you can be successful once you join a university program. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric now to start talking about how to apply to US universities.
Great, thank you, Lisa. So when it comes to US university admission, the first part of understanding US university admission is this idea that we talk about with 7 pieces and 2 questions. So that's what I want to talk to you about now. So you can see here on either side of the screen, we have a list of 7 pieces for graduate admission, which would be master's admission, master's degree or doctoral degree admission. And then we also have a column for undergraduate, for bachelor's degree admission. And as you look at the list, you'll notice that they look very similar, right? But they're certainly not the same. So when we talk about the 7 pieces for graduate applicants, we're talking about the application form, your academic documents, which are also known as your transcripts, 2 different kinds of test scores, your GRE or your GMAT, your TOEFL, IELTS, or DET, right? Letters of recommendation, a personal statement, a resume, and an interview. And for the undergraduates, you'll notice just a couple of differences, right? First, in the test scores, while the grads are taking the GRE or the GMAT, the undergrads are taking the SAT or the ACT. Instead of a personal statement for the graduates, the writing portion of the application for undergraduates is more commonly known as the essay. Undergraduates won't really need a resume. They're going to have an activities list instead, right? And I'm not going to spend too much time now talking about these pieces because we're actually going to go through each piece individually as we go through the presentation. So keep in mind, though, when we talk about your application to a US university, we're talking about the collection of all 7 of these pieces, right? So when we say your application, we're bringing all of these pieces together into one. So when you collect these 7 pieces and you submit your application to a US university, most universities are going to use a process known as holistic admission. And the idea of holistic admission is holistic, the whole, right? All 7 of those pieces are used to make an admissions decision for you. All 7 of those pieces are used to decide who is accepted and who is denied, right? A lot of students out there think, oh, it's just the TOEFL, that's what's most important, or it's just my GRE, or it's just my GPA, my grades, right? It's never about one piece in holistic admission. It's about all of the pieces coming together. And how they come together is through 2 questions, right? So when you submit an application, the admissions committee or the admissions counselor reviewing your application is going to ask 2 questions when they read your file. The first question is about academic success. Will you be academically successful in our school or program, right? Now, this question has a yes or a no answer. There are no maybes here, right? It's a yes or no answer. It's mostly quantitative in nature. The second question is much different. The second question is about fit or match. Are you a good fit? Are you a match for our school or program, right? And the answer to this second question has a lot of gray area. You can be a better match or a great match or not so great a match or an in-between match, right? And the answer to this question is mostly qualitative in nature, right? So again, 7 pieces and 2 questions, right? Keep these in mind as we continue to move through the discussion. So again, what does Unicon do? Well, the Unicon program helps you answer these 2 questions by working with you to build 7 strong pieces to your application. So we want to go through each of the 7 pieces with you and show you what you need to do and how Unicon can help you do that. Okay, so the first piece is the application. And this one always seems really simple, right? So what's the requirement? Well, all of you, all applicants will have to fill out and submit an online application form. For undergraduate students, it could be the common application or the coalition application. It could be what we call a system application, like the University of California or Apply Texas. And it could be a school application. Some schools, like MIT, for example, use their own application. If you want to apply to their school, you have to use their application. For graduate students, most of the time, you are filling out a single application for a single program. However, for some degrees, you have to fill out a degree application. So the examples that we have here for students interested in a master's degree in law, an LLM, you have to fill out the LSAC, the Law School Admissions Council application. For any physical therapists that are out there, you have to use the PTCAS to apply, right? So you fill out one application and you can use it for many different schools, okay? So again, we can help you kind of understand which forms you need to fill out, but more importantly than that, we look at the application as your first impression, right? When someone reads your whole application, this form is what they're going to look at first. It's your first impression, and we want you to make it a good one, right? Also, a lot of these online forms, unfortunately, they're not always international student friendly. And so we can also help you understand what they're asking and how to appropriately answer those questions, right? So what we do in Unicon is we help you understand, troubleshoot, and submit a strong application form. How do we do that? Well, we actually have application workshops where we will, well, at least during non-COVID times, we would go into a computer lab and everyone would log in and we would go through the application together, something we can still do virtually. And we also offer one-on-one advising appointments to help you navigate the application and to also review your application to make sure it's good and proofread and clean and makes that good first impression. So even something like filling out the application is something Unicon can help you with. Okay? Now, the next piece, your transcripts are academic documents, right? Your transcripts from your previous studies are the most important part of your application, right? These academic documents for bachelor's degree applicants, this would be your academic documents from high school. For master's degree applicants, these would be your academic documents from your bachelor's degree studies, from your university studies. And for doctoral degree applicants, it would include bachelor studies and master's studies, okay? Again, the most important part of your application, right? This is the part of your application that universities are going to spend the most time with. But the requirements from school to school are different. Some of the terms you're going to hear are official, original, stamped, or sealed, which means you have to submit your application in a certain way. It's got to be official. In a lot of cases, you're not supposed to touch it for it to be official, right? Some schools, especially for master's applicants, are going to require what's called a credential evaluation. You can see a sample of that in the image below, where it says you can see WES, World Education Services, is a credential evaluation company, right? They essentially convert your transcripts from your home country to a US style of a transcript. And then there's even some things called a self-reported academic record, where you do not submit documents, but you fill out a form that details all of your studies, right? So how can Unicon help? Well, we can't change the past, right? We can't go back and change your courses or change your grades or anything like that. But we can help you with submission of these documents, right? Because this basic step, it seems really easy, but sometimes it's really complicated to complete. So what we can do is we can help you identify and understand the document requirements at each one of the schools you're applying to. How do we do this? Again, one-on-one advising appointments. You're going to spend a lot of time with us one-on-one so that we can review requirements and create a plan for you to fulfill those requirements. If you need to obtain a credential evaluation, we can help you navigate and complete the credential evaluation process. And if it gets to the point where you need to reach out to a university to talk to them about your academic documents, we can help you with the outreach to the universities, right? Again, with your academic documents being the most important piece, we can help you submit that piece so that there are no problems, no bumps, no hiccups with your application. Okay? And that brings us to the third piece, right? Test scores. Now we're going to break test scores into two different parts. And first we're going to start with English language test scores, everyone's favorite part, right? Everyone loves to run out and take English language tests. So the requirement, obviously all universities, US universities are going to require students to demonstrate their English language proficiency. Most commonly that's done through a test, right? The three biggest tests, the three most commonly taken tests are at the bottom of the screen there, the TOEFL, the IELTS, and the Duolingo English test. What we can do in Unicon, right? So the ELP is going to help you improve your language skills. What we can do in Unicon is to help you understand English language requirements and build school lists according to your language abilities. Right? So depending on how strong your English is, we can help you understand, is this school realistic for you? Should you be looking at a different school? Should you be looking, higher, lower? We talk a lot about reach schools and target schools and safety schools, which we're not going to get into today, but that's a part of the advising. So how can Unicon help you with the tests? Well, at the ELP, we have 8 levels of study, right? It starts at 100 and goes up to 800. Students at level 600, 700, or 800 can actually take a TOEFL or IELTS preparation class as one of your elective courses. So we split the courses up into based on skills, right? So there's a reading and writing skills course, one course for the IELTS, one course for the TOEFL, depending on which test you're preparing for. And there's a listening and speaking skills course. Same thing, one for the IELTS, one for the TOEFL, depending on what you're preparing for. And one of the nice things is once we're back together live and in person, being in Philadelphia, testing centers for TOEFL and IELTS in particular are accessible and seats are available. Even now, I just looked into this yesterday to make sure, and even now you can schedule an in-person TOEFL or an in-person IELTS here in Philadelphia, okay? So English language testing is one side of things. That's not the only test you're gonna have to take though. There are also the SAT and ACT for undergraduates and the GRE or GMAT for the graduates, right? So what's the requirement? Well, many universities and graduate programs require these standardized tests for admission. The difference with these tests is that there is an English side to it, and there's also a math component to these tests, right? So they're much different from the TOEFL and the IELTS. Now, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many schools have adopted test optional admission policies. This is especially true for undergraduates, but it is also true for some graduate programs. So as Unicon advisors, we can help you understand the testing policies and really figure out if taking a test is in your best interest, right? So what's your preparation been to this point, right? What does the rest of your application look like? Will taking a test potentially help your application, or will taking a test possibly hurt your application, right? It could go either way. If you do decide to take the tests, or if you are required to take the tests, Unicon can help through the Unicon Plus program that Lisa talked about a little bit before, and she's actually going to talk a little bit more about it later in the presentation. But through Unicon Plus, students can take a full test preparation class as part of their schedule. So if undergrads want to prepare for the SAT, they can take an SAT preparation class. If graduates want to prepare for the GRE, they can take a GRE preparation class. The nice thing about these is the test prep classes are small and they're generally divided according to individual readiness. So there's a beginner class, an intermediate class, and an advanced class, right? And again, being in Philadelphia, testing centers are accessible and seats are available. Again, I did check, and you can register for these tests when you're back in person in Philadelphia. You can actually take these tests live, okay? So what we just looked at The transcripts, the academic documents, and the test scores, these are really those quantitative parts of the application. They answer that first question about academic success, about academic readiness, right? Now, the thing is with that first question is a great way to unlock the door for admission, but it does not always open the door to admission. What opens the door to admission a lot of times is the second question about fit, about your match with a program. And for those pieces, I'm actually going to turn it over to Leah, and she's going to talk to you about those.
Hi, everyone. So the next piece of the application that goes really with the second question that Eric was talking about fit with university, is the letter of recommendation. And sometimes it can be a little bit hard to understand this requirement because it's a bit unique to US admissions in the US. And the purpose of the letter is really to just learn more about you from a trusted source. And a good letter has details and examples and stories to support a positive recommendation about you. So, it's not enough to say that, Eric was a wonderful student. He earned an A in my class. This is best supported with examples. He led class discussions and was, especially passionate about, solar cells. He did a great project and details about your project. He often stayed after class to, talk more about, solar cells. You can help your recommender to write a good letter of recommendation by letting them know some things that you'd like them to highlight in your letter. And this is a legitimate part of the letter writing process, because sometimes it's hard for professors and supervisors in other countries to understand this requirement. So who writes your letters of recommendation? Well, this is someone who knows you well is really the first answer to this. So, it's not your dad's friend who knows the Secretary of Education who's going to write you a letter that you've never met, because this person doesn't necessarily know you and isn't going to have the kinds of details and examples and stories that's going to support who you are, which is what the admissions committee wants to know. So really someone that knows you well. And these are generally academic or professional letters. So an academic letter could be an instructor, if you're a graduate student, an instructor from your major, someone who you had a good relationship with, who maybe you did a project that you're really proud of in their class. This might make a good academic letter writer or recommender. If you're applying for some kind of professional master's programs, a supervisor or some kind of other professional colleague might be a good recommender for you. How many letters should you submit? Well, that really depends on the school and depends on the program. Some undergraduate programs require 0 letters of recommendation. This isn't actually part of the application process. Others might require 3 letters of recommendation. Sometimes there's a requirement, one from a STEM teacher. Sometimes, you have to look at the requirements and see the kinds of letters that are necessary. How to submit letters of recommendation? Well, there's different ways, but they have to be official. So the letter of recommendation can't come from you. It should come from the recommender. And you can submit this online or on paper. If you submit online, generally through the recommendation, you'll put the email address of your recommender, and they will receive a request to submit a letter of recommendation. If your recommender perhaps isn't fluent in English or wouldn't know what to do with this kind of link, it's perfectly okay to have a paper letter of recommendation. And you can arrange that with the admissions committee or the admissions. And the other thing about how to submit is that it must be in English. So it's okay if your recommender isn't fluent in English, because you can submit a translation along with the letter in their language. And we help students with letters of recommendation. We can't help you write the letter, but we can help you to understand what makes a good letter so that you can help your recommender. We can share resources for you and resources for your recommender to help them be more confident in writing a letter for US admissions. So yeah, we can help you understand what makes a good letter so you can help your recommender and really help you navigate the submission process, whether it's paper or electronic, to help you understand what's going to work best for you and your recommender. The next piece that goes under that question of will you be a good fit is your essays or your personal statement. And we're going to divide this into 2 slides because it's quite an important piece with regard to this question. For graduate students, this is a really important piece of your application for graduate school. So what is an admissions committee looking for in your personal statement? Well, they're really looking to learn who you are. There's some other pieces in your application that are going to show what you've done. Your resume, which we're going to talk about next, your transcripts that show the courses you've taken. But your personal statement is meant to color this in and show who you are and how and why you've done the things that you've done and what's motivated you. They're looking to understand your goals and your interests in the field. They're looking to evaluate your writing and your thinking and your communication skills necessary for success in graduate school. To see a little bit about your personality and your collegiality. Will you be a good person to work with, a good person to have in the classroom? And really to assess your fit for the program. And that's the purpose of your statement. The recommended length of your statement, it really depends. Sometimes right in the prompt, they'll say, and no more than 500 words, tell us about your goals for the future and why you're interested in our program. Sometimes you have a 1,000-word limit. So it really kind of depends on the program. How Unicon can help? Well, we have a few different grad statement workshops. Well, we'll really help you understand the role of the statement in the application and evaluation. 5 elements of a statement that we recommend that you include and how to write each of them. Go over writing tips and strategies and analyze a lot of samples. And then we have one-on-one advising, which is really important, to review statement drafts and help you understand prompts and adapt your statement for different schools and programs. Because of a lot of it's a grad statement in terms of your goals and your motivation and your experiences. This could be the same for every school, but then you also want to personalize it for each school and show how you match with different programs. So we can help you adapt your statement to different schools and teach you how to do that. So that's the graduate statement. For undergrads, it's a little bit different. For undergrads, there's 2 kinds of essays that you're going to encounter in your application. There's the main essay, which is one main essay that, depending on your application, will go to all the schools that you're applying to. So if you're using the Common Application, your main essay will go to all the Common App schools. If you're using the Coalition App, it'll go to the different Coalition App schools. You can often use the same essay in the Common App and the Coalition App. And this main essay, again, is really going to show the admissions committee who you are. It's going to help them evaluate your writing and your thinking and communication skills to see the kind of person that you're going to be on campus, in the classroom, out of the classroom, in the community. And the best way to do this is really with some kind of personal narrative, which is, a true story about who you are that kind of makes a larger point for the reader. And again, this is kind of the same for every school. So a personal narrative of 500 to 650 words. And then in addition to that main essay, you also have supplements. And supplements are different for every school. Every school has their own supplements. And supplements are also all about fit. But they're answering more specific questions. A school might ask, why are you interested in our school? Different from other schools. Why are you interested in your major? Or what can you contribute to our community? Or what kind of community do you come from? And there's lots of really strange and interesting questions that you can encounter in supplemental essays. And they can be anywhere from 100 words, well, even 50 words, to 650 words, depending on the school. And again, they're unique to each school. And this is one of our favorite ways to help you with your application. We have an undergraduate essay workshop where we can help you really understand the role of the essay in the evaluation and what makes a good essay. Go over writing tips and strategies. And we have a ton of sample essays that we like to analyze so you can get a better sense of what makes a good essay and also common mistakes that students make. We also have an elective course called Writing the University Application Essay that students are able to take to learn more about writing a good essay and write drafts of the essay for feedback. And then we also have one-on-one advising to review essay drafts and supplements, and we can give you feedback and help you understand what makes a good essay, where your mistakes are, and give you some suggestions for improving your content and your grammar. A seventh piece of the application is your resume or your activities list. And this is also a little bit divided because it's a little bit different for grads and undergrads. For your resume, again, this is showing, what you've done. This is your academic, professional, research, volunteer experiences, different technical skills that you have. And this is detailed and organized and formatted in a particular way for graduate school. And this is going to, again, show what you've done. And we help students with the resume. We have a resume workshop. And we can also have one-on-one advising where we can give you feedback on your resume and help you understand what an American style resume looks like. And the best tip for writing a resume is really to look at sample essays, or excuse me, not sample essays, sample resumes, and perhaps find a good template where you can fill in your own information. And a resume is a little bit different from a CV that a lot of students are familiar with in other countries, because it has a few less details in terms of academic, professional details. It's more bullet points than it is paragraphs, and less personal details. And we can kind of help you understand those requirements. For undergrads, you're going to fill out an activities list. And this is done right in the application, where you're going to go and fill out the different extracurricular activities that you have. Maybe it's a job, or maybe different family responsibilities. As part of the application, admissions committee is really interested in how you spend your time outside of the classroom. And, we often hear from students that they don't have different extracurricular opportunities at their school, and that this is, something at US schools, but not in their school. And they're a little bit worried about this. But this isn't really a problem, because a school is just, again, interested how you spend your time outside the classroom, and what kinds of activities and hobbies and things that you're committed to. So you just want to account for your time in the application, and they're just going to want to know the hours per week and weeks per year that you're committed to some of these activities and responsibilities outside the classroom. And also, you're evaluated in the context of your education. So admissions officers understand that these kinds of extracurricular activities aren't available in other places. And again, how we can help you, as I said, we have resume workshops for graduate students. We can do one-on-one advising. And a really great thing that we can do with the ELP is to help you get involved in on-campus activities to maybe boost your resume or your activities list, and just to have a great experience participating in Penn undergraduate clubs and activities, and even getting involved in the community of Philadelphia for different activities and volunteer experiences. And then finally, is this the seventh piece now? The seventh piece of the application, and it's not always a part of the application, is possibly an interview. Many applicants are invited to interview for graduate and undergraduate programs. In terms of the undergraduate interview, this is often an alumni interview where you are interviewing with an alumni of the school. This tends to be more informal and conversational, so that the alumni can just get to know you a little bit better. Now, there's not so much weight to the interview and the evaluation. It's more an opportunity to connect with the school, but it can help to confirm different themes from your application. It's still an opportunity for you to make an impression and put a face for your application. So it's a great opportunity if you get invited to interview. Some schools try to interview all of their applicants. Some schools don't do interviews. So it really depends on the school and the program. For grads, the interview is a little bit more serious, a little bit more professional. This would be with a faculty member or an admissions rep, depending on the program. And it really helps determine your fit. They'll understand more about who you are and your goals. And sometimes international students are interviewed just to kind of assess your language level and make sure that everything matches up and that you might be successful in the program. And we can help with interviews as well. We do an interview workshop. We can help you do a mock interview where we can practice an interview. We have different interview resources for you, different questions and different ways to prepare. And again, just one-on-one interview prep to help you prepare, get in the right mindset, know the different procedures to go through to have kind of an American style interview, and and practice in that way. And that is the seventh piece of the application.
So we do have a question that I will throw out to the team for whoever wants to answer it. And one of our participants says, I'm an English major from China, currently exchanging at Penn. Great. I may want to apply for a master's degree in education, which means I have to change my major. How should I better prepare for a completely new subject? Eric, you want to take a stab at that one?
Sure. So if I understand correctly, the student's going to be applying for a master's in education, you said? Okay. So
Yes.
the nice thing about applying to master's degrees, I would say a lot, maybe even most master's degrees in the United States do not require students to have a bachelor's degree in the same field, right? So for instance, if you were applying for an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration, you do not have to have a bachelor's degree in business. As an applicant to a master's in education, if you have a bachelor's degree in English, you're very qualified to apply for a master's degree in education. When you look at your application, one of the things that's going to be really important is a piece that Leah talked about, which is your personal statement, right? So when the Education Admissions Committee is reading your application, they want to understand your story, right? Why are you moving from English to education, right? Of all of the different paths that you could have chosen with English as your background, why do you want to take English and follow the education path? Right? Or why do you want to change? Maybe you're finished with English. Maybe you want to change and teach something completely different or do something totally different within education. So they're going to want to understand where the change comes in, right? But understand that, your English studies, there's not necessarily anything different that you have to do in your studies to prepare for your master's application to education. You can continue your degree and your studies as you see fit, and then you'll talk about it in your statement as well as in your interview if you end up applying to programs where an interview is required. Yeah. Leah, anything you would want to add to that?
Yeah, it's really in your personal statement that you're going to explain the the career change. But sometimes I'm not sure with education if this would be an issue, but sometimes when you have a little bit of a shift in your career plan and in your major, there's some prerequisite courses that you might need to take in order to qualify for the graduate program. So sometimes master's in education programs might require that you have kind of an undergraduate math course that maybe you didn't take while you were an English major. So you just want to check with the prerequisite courses, and it's possible you might have to take an extra class or so in order to apply, or it's possible they let you do that once you're in the program. It really depends. But looking at prerequisite courses to make sure that you've taken the undergraduate courses required is also a consideration.
Great, thank you. And thanks for posting that question. Remember, you can post questions for us in the Q&A. We're more than happy to answer any questions that people have. Or if you're on Facebook, feel free to post a question there and that will get to us and we'll answer it for you as well. So before we kind of wrap up, and hopefully you got some helpful information that will help you on your path to applying to university programs in the United States. Before we wrap up, we want to talk a little bit more about Penn and the ELP and the Unicon program to help you understand who we are, and if you or someone you know might be interested in studying with us, what that would mean. So students that we work with in the Unicon program every year go to universities all over the United States for undergraduate programs, for master's degree programs, for doctoral programs, programs at every level in every different field and major at a very, very wide variety of universities. So here's just a sampling of where some of our students have gone, but You know, there's really an endless list of names of universities that we could put here if we had the space. So again, this is how our program is structured. So we are part of the University of Pennsylvania. If you are a student in the ELP, if you are a Unicon student, you have a Penn ID card, you have access to all of the different services on our campus, and you are truly a part of the Penn community. So within the University of Pennsylvania, again, is the English language programs, or the ELP. And within the ELP is the intensive program, the Unicon program, Unicon Plus, and the opportunity to take a Penn undergraduate class. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those aspects of the program. So the IP, we have, as I said at the beginning, 7-week sessions. We have 6 7-week sessions year round. Fall 1, fall 2, spring 1, spring 2, summer 1, and summer 2. You can come for a 7-week session and stay as long as you'd like. Lots of students take a gap year, either in between high school and undergraduate program, or in between their undergraduate program in their country and coming to get a graduate degree in the US, and spend a full academic year in the ELP, moving up through our levels, refining their academic English, and getting support applying to US universities. Or you could just come for 7 weeks. Maybe it's your summer vacation or your winter vacation, and you want to just get that support for a limited amount of time. We have 8 levels. So the 100 level are our beginners, and the 800 level are our most advanced students. You take a placement test before you come and are placed in a level. And then every 7 weeks, you have an opportunity to move up to the next level. We have language classes are the bulk of what you do in our program. We have core classes in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And then we have lots of different elective classes in things like reading and discussion, writing, style and rhetoric, the news in English, English for science, English for engineering, and preparation classes for the TOEFL and the IELTS. We can also help you prepare for the Duolingo, the DET test. We have people on our staff who have a lot of knowledge about that test. So you can choose from lots of different courses. The University Connection Program, or Unicon, is the program that we all work in, and is the program within the ELP that helps you to apply to US universities and prepare to be successful in those degree programs. We have workshops every week on topics like how to navigate the US admissions process, how to write a strong undergraduate application essay or graduate statement of purpose or personal statement, how to write an effective resume, how to complete the common application, how to be successful in an interview. So all kinds of topics we do workshops on every week. You have unlimited access to our advisors. So you can go online and sign up for a 30-minute slot, and that time is yours. You can talk to your advisor about picking schools, about researching schools, about writing your personal statement, about writing your resume. You can bring a draft of an essay or a resume and get feedback on it, and then continue to come back over and over again to get more feedback until you've finished what you're working on. We give very intensive feedback on essays and personal statements. We really encourage lots of drafts and lots of work so that you get to that really excellent product, and we're with you the whole way. We invite representatives, admissions representatives from different universities to come talk with our students. And if you join our Unicon Plus program, you can take a preparation class in the SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, and even some other tests. We have students right now taking a preparation class in our program for the NCLEX. They're applying for nursing schools, so we can help you with all kinds of different tests in the Unicon Plus program. If you are a part of the intensive program and you reach our most advanced level, our 800 level, you have the opportunity to take an undergraduate class at Penn. So even if you're a graduate student or applying for graduate programs, it still can be really useful to take an undergraduate program at Penn, because you learn all kinds of things like what a university class is like in the US, what kinds of expectations professors have, what kinds of assignments there are. So, you can get credit for those courses, but even if you don't need the credit, the classes can teach you a lot of really useful things. You can take a class in your major or your, area of interest. You learn lots of vocabulary and terminology and English in your area and lots of other things. If you're taking a Penn undergraduate classes, this in red is what your schedule would look like. You would have 2 English language classes, 1 Penn credited undergraduate course, and a course in our program called Skills for Success at US Universities, which helps you with the academic skills that make you a successful student in a rigorous academic program in the US. There are classes you can take in all fields of study, and you do receive a Penn credit for that class. So just a bit about the timeline. So again, we have 7-week sessions, and on the left here, you can see when those upcoming sessions are if you're interested in studying with us. And then on the right, you can see some examples of what might be a good timeline, depending on your goals. So for example, if you're planning on starting a degree program in either January 2022 or the following August, September 2022, you could start studying with us maybe in our Summer 1 or Summer 2 program. You focus on your English over the summer. Then in the fall, you would work on your university applications, get one-on-one advising, come to our workshops, talk to admissions reps, do all of those things while you're still improving your English. And then in the spring, you could continue to work on your English and take a Penn undergraduate class. So that would be an example. There are many ways that you can do this, but that would be an example of a timeline for applying to a degree program for next fall. If you already know that you're starting a degree program in fall 2021 and you're already accepted to that program, you could come, a little bit early, join our program in the summer, fine-tune your academic English, and take a Penn undergraduate class to kind of get started and acclimate to being on a US university campus and taking a university class. So here are some places that you can learn more about us. The top one is our website, then our Unicon website, an email address where you can contact us. Our website has all kinds of information, so please, visit us there and contact us with any follow-up questions that you have. And before we wrap up, I see that there's a question in the Q&A, but it just says thank you. So I actually don't see any other questions in there right now. But again, if you have questions and you're not asking them now, no problem at all. We're here. We would love to hear from you. You can email us individually at these email addresses. You can email our main office at the bottom here. You can see the address elp@sas.upenn.edu for any information that you want about our programs. We would love to hear from you. Hopefully you got some good information today that will help you on your personal journey, your path to coming to the US to get an graduate or graduate degree. But we're here for you if you have more questions, and feel free to contact us anytime. And from our whole team, we thank you, whether you're here in the webinar or joining us live on Facebook or watching the recording later on. We really do thank you for joining us and for being with us today. And we wish you the very best of luck in your future. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.